It's 72 years since the terrible night in Germany and Austria called Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. The organised mass violence against Jews saw rampaging Nazis smash Jewish stores and properties, kill nearly 100 people and intern 36,000 others in camps. A month later, across the other side of the world in Melbourne, a remarkable elderly man organised a protest march to the German consulate, the only private demonstration against the pogrom of that night. The man was William Cooper, now recognised as one of the founders of modern Aboriginal activism, who fought for the plight of many oppressed groups as well as his own people. Next week, William Cooper's descendants will fly to Israel, where he'll be honoured with an academic chair established in his name. Mary Gearan has the story, and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers are warned that the following report contains images of deceased persons.
Well, let me tell you the story of Kristallnacht. We saw burning synagogues, burning old age homes. The street was covered with glass. Everything destroyed.
Shmuel Rosenkrantz was only 10 when the Nazis stormed his hometown of Vienna in the terrifying attacks of Kristallnacht. He and some of his family were among the relative few to escape the destruction of that night. Decades later, he was to discover in his new home on the other side of the globe that back in 1938, an Australian man had stood up for the Jews in the only known private protest against Kristallnacht.
In my opinion, the man was a great humanist, above all.
The man in question wasn't just half a world away from the Nazi horror. He was a man disenfranchised in his own country, the founder of the Australian Aborigines League, William Cooper.
And his message to the world was that if we sit in silence while evil's happening around us, we're no better than those who are doing it.
Then aged 77, William Cooper led a delegation from his house in Melbourne's inner west to the German consulate in the city to deliver a resolution
against the cruel persecution of the Jewish people by the Nazi government of Germany, and asking that the persecution be brought to an end.
That's a powerful thing for people who have no status. Just walk into the capital city and demand at the German embassy, you stop this. Can you imagine what people were thinking of him? Now we see him as a hero. Then he was just a troublemaker, just a stirrer. Got to watch him. He's a stirrer, that fella.
So who was this stirrer who dared attempt to walk onto the stage of world politics? Cooper was a Yorta man and lived most of his life at Cummeragunja on the Victoria-New South Wales border, the site of the famed mass walk-off protesting conditions at the mission.
It looks good. See so much water here. It's been years, eh?
Kevin Russell often returns to this land with his son Michael and Cooper's grandson Alf, or Uncle Boydie Turner, who was a boy when his grandfather moved to Melbourne and fought for his people there.
I remember him as a big man. He was around 6 feet and solidly built, and a very quiet man until the question came up about his people, the Aboriginal people, and he'd fire up then.
Having learnt to read and write as a precocious youngster, Cooper was a prolific letter writer, and in his last years wrote to the King, the Prime Minister, whoever might deliver better conditions and parliamentary representation for his people.
In all of his letters, you see as he signs off, I am forever yours, your faithful subject. Words like that just show who William was, and that he knew that the way forward was not through bitterness, and he started to do the right way, because the fear of extermination of our people.
William Cooper died in 1941, not seeing the measures he'd fought for.
No, neither will never forget. No, your grandchildren, my kids, they'll keep doing this. They'll keep fighting.
Slowly, recognition within Australia of Cooper's achievements has grown. The display in Melbourne's Jewish Holocaust Centre, a justice building in Melbourne will bear his name, and he still inspires the Aboriginal community in Melbourne's west, which became his home.
Every day I wake up, I think about William Cooper, for what he has done for our people, and I think that he inspires me for the work that I do.
His story also inspired property developer and founder of the Australia-Israel Cultural Exchange, Albert Dodon, to act. He says before he knew of Cooper's Kristallnacht protest, he'd believed there'd been widespread ignorance about the treatment of Jews at the time, and that's why no one, seemingly, had acted to stop it.
And you wonder why William Cooper stood up. And perhaps you look at the delegitimization that the Jews were subject at the time, and perhaps it took someone else that was himself delegitimized to recognize the humanity of those people.
We, the Jewish people, were a people without land, and the indigenous people were able or could have their own land, but others prevented it.
Now, 2 years after trees were planted in William Cooper's honour in Martyrs Forest outside Jerusalem, with water from the Murray, Albert Dodon's organisation has established an academic chair in Cooper's name for the study of resistance against the Nazis at Yad Vashem, Israel's official memorial to Jewish Holocaust victims.
We checked that William Cooper is a legitimate figure who indeed did protest the Kristallnacht pogrom in Australia, and we were happy to acquiesce to the donor's request.
Well, we're grateful for that, because really William hasn't had the recognition he deserves here in Australia. Not by his own people, not by the Australian government. Yet the Jewish communities in Israel have put William on the world stage as a global warrior for humanity.
I think it's terrific because they're recognising what the man done. I think there is a great parallel to our people.
And William Cooper's great-grandson Kevin Russell will lead a walk to Melbourne's Federation Square this Sunday to commemorate the Kristallnacht protest. Mary Gearan with that report.